So, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar today. We're seeing the first participants arriving as we speak, but I think, as usual, we're going to wait another 1 or 2 minutes to give everyone the chance to join our webinar. In the meantime, we can do a little sound check. So if you can understand me loud and clear, it would be nice if you could raise your hand virtually in Zoom. Okay, that is not a majority, so I have to see and wait. Yeah, okay, no, it's good. Yeah, okay, the majority can understand me. That's cool. Next thing we're gonna do is prepare the presentation for today. There we go. All right. So we have Arthur Höring and myself in the webinar today. Arthur is our customer success manager. He takes care that everything on the customer sides in regards to SciFlow is working. That counts for support for the users, as well as trainings and support for publications, which we're going to talk about a lot today. Myself, I'm Carsten Borchert. I'm one of the 2 co-founders of SciFlow. And just let me check if the majority who signed up is already here. Go. Yeah, not yet. No, let's give it another minute, and we go to one organizational thing, which is questions. Please feel free to ask questions at any time. In Zoom, you can use the Q&A module to raise questions. It will pop up right here, and we can decide when to answer the question. All right, but I think let's get started for today. So welcome officially once again to our webinar. Arthur and myself, would like to tell you a little bit about SciFlow Publish, therefore we have a presentation prepared for today and also a practical demonstration for SciFlow Publish. I'm going to start it with a few slides, and then Arthur takes over. And again, we reserved sometimes for questions, so please feel free at any point to ask questions in Q&A. All right. So as I see from the participants list, some of you are already familiar with SciFlow, but for all of those who don't, just a very small recap what SciFlow is about. So we created SciFlow as a alternative for Google Docs or Microsoft Word for researchers. So we designed SciFlow as a text editor where those users, researchers, and students can write their text in SciFlow directly in an easy, nice, manner. So we have this easy to use online editor. And why do I say it's easy to use? Because we tailored the needs specifically for researchers and students. So if you see that from the screenshot, you won't find any font sizes or font type icons in SciFlow, because all those things is actually not really necessary, since students and researchers, they write for papers, they write a thesis, and in terms of guidelines for the text, there are a lot, and we try to separate those guidelines and the actual text. So researchers, they can focus on the actual text in terms of font size and font type. That is one thing that SciFlow takes care automatically. SciFlow is collaborative. Researchers all over the world can write together, and one important feature is that they can import their references directly to SciFlow. I mentioned briefly, we have this automated formatting where we have, say, close to 6,000 templates right now, where researchers can select from the journal they would like to publish in, and just start writing, and SciFlow takes care of the formatting. Students, for example, if they want to write a thesis, they are pretty much interested in the PDF typesetting. We also have the institutional templates. So again, we have all those guidelines professors from the institution would like to see in the thesis, and students just going to focus on their writing, and then SciFlow exports it automatically. And one other thing that is also important for the writing part is that SciFlow is not limited to exports for submissions or for thesis, but also we can basically export any format out of SciFlow that is out there, be it XML, HTML, or EPUB. And yeah, actually, we realized that we have those capabilities, and it's not really hard for SciFlow to actually export those formats out of SciFlow. And that was, let me say, not one motivation, but one trigger point for us to say, okay, we can do actually just more than providing a writing platform. We can also support publication workflows. Later, I will tell you more about that. Just for the context of SciFlow, I want to mention that SciFlow is supposed to be an alternative for Google Docs and academia. There's also LaTeX, and usually LaTeX users are pretty happy with LaTeX and are hard to convince to use something else. But what we see in reality is that there's also some interdisciplinary work happen, where Word users and LaTeX users need to work together. And before SciFlow, often the common ground was Word, and now with SciFlow, there's real alternative also for the LaTeX users. And because we have equations in LaTeX, and we also have the automatic formatting, which they usually really like. Okay, yeah, some of you already know that our main, let me say, business model or target audience are being towards 2 universities. We started in Germany. That's why we have most of our users, institutional customers are from Germany. But last year we started to expand with the help of our partners, and now have new customers all over Europe, which is great. But there was a really brief introduction. What is SciFlow authoring about? The focus on today's webinar is not the writing, is actually the publishing. And I mentioned it. We had the idea that SciFlow can be more than just a text editor. We can also support publishers and university presses. And since university and institutions were already our customers, and we've seen some demand, especially from the institutional publishers lately. But maybe one step back, why we are doing this and why it's relevant, SciFlow Publish. So we all know about open access, and especially Diamond Open Access. I have it here as a source from Wikipedia. So Diamond Open Access is basically free for everyone. It's free for readers and free for authors. And usually those Diamond Open Accesses are connected to institutional publishing. And one thing, 75% of those institutional publishers have in common, they don't go beyond PDF. And in terms of disseminating the work, having the work indexed in the right platforms and accessible, for example, via mobile, that is actually a problem. And if you would compare it to the big publishers, Elsevier, Springer, Wiley, and medium publishers, I don't know, you would see that's unthinkable that a publication is only available in PDF. And so we believe that in terms for Diamond Open Access, those 75% who don't go beyond PDF is actually a problem in terms of accessibility. And if you look a little bit deeper, why is that happening? It's because there's simply a gap in the production, in many publication workflows. So on the one hand, you have the content, what the authors do, what editors, what reviewers do. It takes place in Word, LaTeX, sometimes, and more in SciFlow. But right now it's disconnected from the output side. So the output side is not thinking in docx or LaTeX. It's HTML, it's PDF, EPUB, and XML. And to get from content to output, that's actually very tricky. Big publishers, for example, they have outsourcing centers, for example, in India, where the work is done manually, or they have very big content management systems where there's a transformation happening. Both options are not viable for university presses and smaller publishers. And basically with SciFlow Publish, we are addressing that gap. So you already know SciFlow as an authoring platform, at least some of you. And one major difference in terms of that is you can't expect that all authors write with SciFlow. So the first thing we needed to change for SciFlow Publish was to allow Word files to be imported to SciFlow. And once the text is imported to SciFlow, you can do all the things that you are you can do when you're used to work with SciFlow. For example, you can edit it collaboratively. You can export it in any format you like, XML, PDF, and so on. And one more thing we needed to add was metadata, because of course, if you have a PDF, you need to add a DOI, for example, or you need to add, I don't know, the date when it was published. So there's a lot of metadata to be added. So we added this to SciFlow as well. I think Arthur will show you a lot about this as well. And one thing that was also important for us was that so when we started SciFlow, we wanted it to be easy to use and basically as a service. So, and this is important for SciFlow Publish as well. So it's important to us that you don't have to set up complicated systems or need to do at least 100 books or 100 journal articles before there's a ROI or before it's worth it to you. Our goal is that it's possible to use SciFlow Publish basically with one book or with one journal already. So that's why we stated it starts with publication 1. You can do it with your first publication, and there will be worth. One more slide regarding the context. So there is so it's clear for everyone what SciFlow Publish is about. Out there already are. That was too fast. Out there are already submission managers, university presses, institutional publishers often use OJS, for example, to cover the workflow from submit throughout the publication process. What OJS and other sub-managers just don't cover is the part of the production. So to create the actual HTML, PDF, EPUB, XML, it's usually not possible with the submission managers. And exactly this is the gap I was talking about. This gap is addressed by SciFlow Publish. And you need to have those HTML, PDF, and so on to reach the requirements of dissemination. So to have not only the PDF in your repository, but you have the publication in machine readable way, so that can be indexed in directory in the web. And of course, you still want to have it, or maybe you want to have the book printed as well. Then you need to have the right corporate design, or you want to put it on the website as well. And this is exactly the reason why there is the need for a tool like SciFlow Publish to provide all those formats. Because submission managers don't do it right now. Yeah. All right. Next slide. Yeah, and one more slide for context, because there are some of you here who already know SciFlow. The difference between SciFlow Authoring Platform and SciFlow Publish is that this authoring platform is for students and researchers. SciFlow Publish is for university presses and smaller publishers. The authoring platform is licensed with a campus license because you need to have the researchers and students all have access to SciFlow. But then again, this model wouldn't work for publishers. So the pricing model for SciFlow Publish is based on the amount based on the amount of publications. Yeah, and before Arthur takes over with the more practical part of SciFlow, just would like to summarize the main benefits of using SciFlow Publish. So the first is a standardized submission formats. I mentioned, so SciFlow Publish can import Word manuscripts from the author to the SciFlow, and of course there's also the option that we have the actual journal template for writing available in SciFlow. So on the right-hand side, you see our first or some templates that are already in SciFlow for Diamond OpenX publishing from the University of Bern. And the good thing is, if authors would write with SciFlow, then basically your production effort goes, I'm not going to say close to zero because there is still some, but it reduces dramatically because all the metadata in terms of authors or references is already provided in the right format by the authors. So the only thing in the production step you would need to do is to add things like DOI or some other metadata, and that's it basically. So we are aware that not every author will use SciFlow to write their papers, but if they do, it's going to be very good for the university press. The second advantage is you know that SciFlow is collaborative, so you can work on the same versions. You can editors and authors can have a joint view on the document. They can start, if they want to, or if that is required by the publishing workflow, they can have discussions on the actual text. Editors can keep track of changes for all the things authors changed, or there's also a suggestion mode in SciFlow where you can not change text but make suggestions. One thing that is very important in that regard is version control. So SciFlow has revisions inbuilt, so that you can compare previous version of the text and see who changed what. All right. The third benefit is it's a very lean and streamlined production process. You can have your PDF in a corporate design or HTML, the PDF if you want to print it, or online with the HTML. It's a single source publishing process, so it makes sure that's you need to have the text one time in SciFlow, but after that you can create any format you would like. And yeah, we talked about metadata, and in the end you can download your production ready formats, and then afterwards, for example, import it to OGS or your publication platform. The next thing is that especially if we think about XML publications, machine readable publications, right now what you see, usually you have to use an XML editor. So you really have to, I don't know, open your code editor, open the XML and start editing things. We wanted to have a visual interface for adding metadata. And this is why you see on the right-hand side an example of our interface, where basically you're adding JATS metadata in the right format, but without any writing code. One thing is that your institution doesn't need to host SciFlow. So SciFlow is available out of the box for you. We provide the templates for you, so you don't need to need to have your, or you need to have your own templates, but SciFlow makes sure it's there and it's usable for you. And also, so since some institutions, they have their OJS hosted in their institution, we wanted to make it easy just to have a clear interface without adding too much tech on it. And this is why you basically download the files which are ready to upload, for example, in OJS. So this is one thing we would check before we start with a new customer, that the actual files SciFlow produced are ready to be imported in your publication platform, and we don't need to worry about too much about API connections. To local systems, of course, when it's API to central services, this is provided by SciFlow, of course. All right. Yeah, one thing before we kick it over to Arthur is one of our customers. It's the KIT Scientific Publishing. We recently started a pilot project where SciFlow will produce 30 books for the KIT in a single source publishing process. And basically, we already did the first book last year, and this book is on the left side here, and it's available as a PDF and also as an EPUB and HTML, which is great. We have a case study about this, and you find it here, and later I talk a little bit more about the case studies. But before we look at too many PowerPoint slides, I think it's a good time for Arthur to take over and show the practical aspects of SciFlow Publish.
Yeah, thank you, Carsten. First of all, let me also welcome you all. It's very nice to see you. And let me go ahead and share my screen so that you can see all the nice things that is going on. So where is it? There is my screen. Let's share it. All right. So what I have planned for you today is we will have a look at uploading a manuscript into SciFlow and then see how we prepare this document in SciFlow, and we can manage the several production steps that Carsten mentioned, how we can produce PDF, HTML, have a look at an XML version. And I chose to do that by showing you an article that we already did with the NASJ, the North American Studies Journal, so that you have direct feedback and how it then can look afterwards. And so what we're going to do is go through the motions here and show you step by step how it's done. I already noticed there was a question in terms to collaboration, and I will get to that when the time is ripe, because later on it makes much more sense to talk about that. So I am aware of the question, and I will handle it later. So where we start here is we can upload a manuscript, and here I have one manuscript that was provided by the NASJ. And a very nice thing for uploading Word manuscripts is that the importer of SciFlow that takes the Word document and converts it into a SciFlow document actually has a very low threshold of what needs to be done in the actual Word document. So the rule of thumb that I always use is it has to be a function of Word, most commonly here in the top toolbar, and then SciFlow is able to recognize it. So of course there are many different ways in Word to get to a goal, but if you use the indentation feature, if you use the footnote feature of Word, then SciFlow is very much able to recognize that and implement that into a SciFlow document. So what I did here is, this is the raw file that I got, and the only thing that was missing here, so let's have a look. It's a very common Word document. We have the indentations here, and we have a figure down below here. What was missing here is, if we look at the styles, that these headers that were created in the document, they were still normal running text, so SciFlow would have a hard time to recognize those as chapters. So this is what I did here. I took, for example, the title and assigned it the title style, and I did the same for the chapters, where I went around, gone through the document and assigned those properties. So SciFlow has the opportunity to recognize them. As you see here, the format of how it actually looks here is completely irrelevant, because SciFlow only needs the information that is important here, that is embedded by these styles, that this is the title, that is a chapter, and that is what I did with this Word file. I won't go through everything here, this would be too boring, but I prepared a file where all these styles were assigned, and that is everything that I need to do to upload it to SciFlow from there. So as you see here, there's the reminder again, choose the heading level, and from there I can simply say, all right, here is the original file, here's the one where I added the headings, and I just say, all right, this is the one that I'll upload into SciFlow. And then as you see here, SciFlow automatically recognizes all the headings, all the titles that I implemented. And if we have a look further down, it also recognizes the indentations, it recognizes the figure, and also subheadings like this, and hyperlinks. So as you see, basically the common stuff is recognized automatically. And here, if we look below, we also have a footnote that was also recognized automatically. So this is everything that I need to do to import it. This is the place where you can do the sanity check, just check if the structure is all right and works for you. And from there, all you have to do is to import the thing to the editor. And once that is done, you can open this in SciFlow. And from there, I have a SciFlow document where, as you see here, I already have the title. I would need to work a little bit with the author information, but this is basically already a proper document, so to speak. So we see here, we have the chapters already displayed in the document outline. And from here, without even having laid another finger on the document in SciFlow, I could already say, okay, let's produce this as an RSJ article. We work with an RSJ to produce a PDF template that works to their desires. And even without having worked any further on that, I can simply show you already how a PDF is produced in this case. So let me go ahead and show you the PDF here. And as you see, there are things missing. The author data is not quite correct yet. It still recognizes me as the author here, but mind you, I haven't done anything here, but we also get an immediate effect and an immediate result. So this is by me simply giving it two minutes work of my time, and I can produce a beautifully typesetted document here, which I can then further edit in the editor. I won't go into too much detail, but I want to give you an idea of what the editor can do. So for instance, in the case of the works cited chapter here, as you see, this is normal running text still. This is easily fixed because within the document you have the running text that you produce, but you can from there work further with it via these chapter options here, for example, which why it's important to assign the chapters, because SciFlow now knows this is all a chapter. I have assigned that in the Word file, and from there I can do many more things. I can provide a type for the chapter. So for instance, I can say, hey, this is a bibliography, and if SciFlow knows these informations, for instance, also the numbering, I can change that to none if I feel so inclined. And with that, for one, there are metadata implemented here already, but it also has an effect on how the PDF looks. So you have direct and easy way of applying changes and applying the formatting nudges and styles that you need. And all I need to do here is to reload the PDF document, and I will already see the changes here. So if I go back to works cited, is not numbered anymore. Now we have the indentation that we need for the references. So this just to give you a quick idea that working with the editor has it's easy to use and has a direct feedback for you to see how the produced PDF actually changes. This is within the text. You have many more options to work here. But what I want to go over also is that you have the other layer of metadata that Carsten already talked about for the XML, which returns to the authors, where I can work with the authors here. So I would need to, I would either have to invite authors or produce them here in the authors menu as well. And this is also where collaboration can take place. But let me first finish how you can further work with the authors. So for instance, I could say, okay, let me be an editor. And once I am an editor, I can also now add authors without a document, without a SciFlow account to the document, which lets me, for instance, add these two authors that were working on this article, but also in the export menu. You don't need to have to remember that, but just let me show you. You have also fields for the metadata that you can implement here, and like the DOI, the journal issue number, stuff like that. I prepared a version of this document where all this is implemented so that you can see how that looks. But that is everything here. So you have the ability to work with the text, and you have the ability to work with the metadata. And at that point, you can also, for one, imagine all that is here doesn't have to be a Word file that you import. If I were working with SciFlow, I could produce such a document from scratch in SciFlow as well. So there are two ways to get to that point, by either working with Word or by working with SciFlow. And from here, I can also add actual authors into the document, where we can then find a workflow for copy editing and for working together. And there was the question how functionalities are planned. There are already functionalities within the document. So for instance, we could go around here and take sections and leave comments like this, where I can talk with the author or with other editors. This is just as an example. Talking and writing at the same time is quite difficult for me at this hour. So you can ask a question, for example, like that, and then you can go into feedbacks about certain sections of the document, but you can also propose suggestions like this, where you can then say, maybe this needs to be 46 and 48. Let me add a space here so that you have an idea how suggestions can work. So you see, there are already, because of the authoring platform, that we also offer some available forms and mechanisms for collaboration, as well as a revision system and a document history. I won't go into too much detail about that, but just to let you know that you here in SciFlow have now the ability to, once again, work with the text or work with the metadata, all in the same interface. And this then can look a little bit like this. So here we have the same document. It's created from the same Word file that I imported, and I just set it up a little more nicely. You will see that we have the author information here implemented. I added some biography information here as well, and I added also some metadata here, DOI, journal issue number. I implemented a small widget for the copyright license, and with that, I can produce a PDF again, which then implements all the metadata that I used. I left our other lovely co-founder Frederick in here as well, because he has an ORCID number, which quite nicely shows that you can implement such thing as metadata as well without a problem. So here you see we have the author information, we have meta information that is implemented in the PDF without much work. And then we have the about the author section as well. We have the copyright. So all those things are implemented automatically once you maintain those fields directly in the SciFlow document as well, which gives you a nicely typesetted document with figures as well, as we see here. So all that is done with a single push of a button, and it's maintained quite easily within the document. The same goes for XML. So this particular journal here template doesn't have an XML download per se, but we can quite easily convert all the information into in XML that we can preview with Lens. So this, just to give you a quick idea, once again, with a single push of a button, I take all the information that we have and create an XML from it, where we have the figures. Once again, we have the information about the author, DOI, all those stuff. How that is displayed, of course, depends a little bit on the viewer that you use, but nonetheless, hopefully you see providing an XML version of an article, of a SciFlow document is quite easily, and it's easily converted to be provided for you. On top of that, there's also HTML, which I can also easily create. Let me just fiddle around with the URL here a little bit. You won't have to do that. This is just for showcasing the thing, because this is a little bit faster than going the other way. This just to show that an HTML version is available here as well, and it's created also quite fastly, and takes all the information you have about the text and puts it into an HTML version. And that is exactly what the NASD produced and used for their own. This was a little too fast. So we have the article here within their current volume, and they actually provide exactly the files that I just showed you, where I used demo versions. They of course used the correct ones, and as you see here, they used the same template that provided the PDF, and the same goes for the HTML. So they were able to use that, I believe, with OSJ as well. Had only drop it into the system and had the readily and perfectly typesetted produced files to work with. And that is what I wanted to show you, that you can import a file, that you can create such a document in SciFlow itself as well, and the many options you have to produce the output that you would need for what you're looking for. Of course, when working with SciFlow, it's a big interface. You are not alone. You will always have the ability to access support. So we have a support forum, but you can also send us messages while working in SciFlow, where we happily assist you and support you once you decide to work with SciFlow. And so you also have always a way to get the support you need to produce the file that you're looking for. Yeah, that's it for working in the workflow of producing an article in SciFlow and then exporting it to what you might need for your own publication. For now, to bring that to a close, what I wanted to show you as well is a little sneak peek. This is a preview. This is still work in progress, but I wanted to show you what we're working on, so that you can get an idea of how this would look for a whole volume, a whole bundle of articles that you may work on, because in SciFlow we're currently working on providing an interface that lets you organize a whole project. So here, this is just a demo, but you would be able to organize your projects in SciFlow as well, where you have those SciFlow files that you seen here. So this is the exact file that we looked at a few seconds ago, and you have some progression states that you can work with. You can download them from here as well. And what will happen here as well is that you can get an interface to download the whole issue as one in the file format that you need. But just to give you an idea, you can work with the editors, see which editor is working on what article. This looks like I'm doing all the work, but this just because I set up that demo project here. So that you get an idea that beyond working with a single file, SciFlow is actively working on producing a way for you to organize them as a project in SciFlow as well. And this is basically all that I wanted to show you. Happily take questions as well, or yeah, let me know if there's anything that I maybe missed that you need or want to see, and I'll happily show you.
All right, thank you, Arthur. There was one question you answered already indirect, but just for the purpose of clarity, I just want to read it again and then we go through it. The question goes, do you have any plans to develop also any review functionalities? Exchanging notes, comments, suggestions as a reviewer is very similar to collaborative writing functions. The statement is very true. The functionalities are very similar. So in terms of technical things, basically everything is already there. Still, the more interesting question for us would be how it would integrate into actual workflows with reviewers, because what you want to do is, for example, if you're using OJS, you still want to have like your submission, your reviewers, you want to see it and assign it via OJS, and then open the SciFlow document in a blind way, so that no one see each other, and that means you have to also have the document state. So although the basic functionalities for collaboration is already there, there's a larger effort for integration of SciFlow into the process. That's why we would prefer it if we would have an actual case where someone would like to perform blind reviews in SciFlow, and then we can go from there, basically. So since I mentioned OJS, Open Journal System, a couple of times, just can say we're in touch with them, but it's not something that is it's needed, yes, but it's not planned on a roadmap right now. But definitely have an eye on it, especially if a university press or publisher has journals and wants to do reviews in SciFlow. In terms of collaboration between author and editor, where the blind aspect is not that important, this can be done today. So this is definitely an advantage here for SciFlow Publish, that editors and authors can work on the same platform together, and as Arthur showed us, see what changed. All right. Another question I received is, you were talking a lot about journals. What about books? Arthur, maybe you can show us one example for books as well.
Yeah, gladly. Yeah, the workflow is actually the same. So let me just maybe go ahead and take the same document that won't work fully, but just to give you an idea that that it just depends on the template that you're using. So if you're looking to implement templates of a book format, you can do that as well. So for instance, we're working with the KIT, we have monograph templates as well. I can use that for a document, and then it is quite actually the same. So I just take the information that is within the SciFlow document, and I can use now a template that produces a book file. Of course, this won't work perfectly because it's not designed to be a book, but as you see here, it takes some information and delivers it into contents, and has a list of figures as well, and just gives you an idea of how a book would work in that case. So there is actually no problem in producing books the same way. It just depends on the template that you use, and then of course the setup of your document has to accompany that a little bit. We would have to use cover page elements like this, where you can then design your cover page. This is just like a free field to just cover page like this, you can then design your cover page and work with some elements that cater more to a book, where you can then work with it the way that you want to. And this just a small example, but to give you an idea, the element that you work with change slightly, but the outcome is the same. You work with a template, you click on a button, and you get the needed design and formatting.
Okay. Now one more question. Is the word import already available for the current users? So for, general availability for all users, including authoring platform, will be Q2 this year. So we are just about finalizing it. For those journals who are working already with SciFlow Publish, it's activated already. Yeah. So if you want to try, please reach out to us. Then we can have, maybe the reason why we're doing this way, we still need to have like a 15-minute introduction to the importer. Basically after this webinar, you would know, but the 15-minute introduction to the importer right now is still necessary, and that's why we are having it already only for SciFlow Publish users right now. All right. Yeah, maybe someone has more questions. In the meantime, I would like to talk a little bit about next steps. I'm sharing my screen. Back to the presentation. Now, 1 second. Presentation stopped. Yeah, so we talked about KIT. So in regards to the question, if you go to the, maybe we send the link here to everyone, and then you also can see how a final publication with SciFlow looks like. In case you're interested about learning more about NASJ, so the practical example Arthur was giving, we have a case study about that. You will find it on our website and also for KIT. Last point for today is some practical things if you wanna get started with SciFlow Publish. So what would be the first steps? So my slides jump automatically. So the first thing is we would perform a check. Are those publications you do, are these suitable for SciFlow Publish? So we look at the templates you need, the corporate design of the PDF or HTML. We would look at special requirements, and with special requirements, I mean things we didn't see so far in SciFlow Publish. Give you one example. End of May, beginning of June, a journal is coming out that's using SciFlow with Farsi and Arabic. So we need to implement right to left right now. So that would be considered special requirement, but only because we don't have it in SciFlow. After that journal is done, it's not a special requirement anymore. So we are aware that there are so many different things and requirements out there we need to support in SciFlow Publish, and that's the reason we are doing this check before, so we make sure we support all the elements of the publication. And also we would check in terms of integrations. So again, OJS, we know it's the output of SciFlow is compatible to be imported into OJS. You might use different systems, other repositories. So we wanted to check that our output matches the requirements of the input. Usually it takes us a week to perform the check, so it's pretty fast. And if we are okay and you are okay, we could start working on the publications. First steps there would be we provide the templates, PDF, EPUB, XML, HTML. We would take your corporate design and put it into our templates. after this is done, this is gonna take a little bit longer, I would say up to 4 weeks, depending on the complexity of the layout. Sometimes it's only a week, but we know that the requirements for corporate design and print might be high, so gotta be sure with 4 weeks. And then we can do the onboarding. We would do a training for the people who will be working with SciFlow Publish, that will be recorded as well. And the first publications we're gonna do basically together. So the first issue of a journal or the first book, you would get the full support of SciFlow, of the SciFlow team, to make sure everything goes smooth. And after that, you can still reach out via the chat for us or read the documentation about SciFlow Publish. But just to give you an idea how you would get started. Before you get to final questions, one more thing. So if you would be interested in reaching out, here again, here are our partners listed below. Please feel free to reach out to them or directly to me if you have any questions or you would like to do the first steps. In the meantime, there was one more question, which already was answered by Arthur. Okay, great. Yeah. So tables and equations we already worked a lot with in SciFlow. So this is good, because for equations, of course, if the input format is LaTeX, then it gets a bit tricky. Then we would have the requirement that we check it for ourselves. But usually if the equation is in Word, it should be fine. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So again, thank you very much for attending our webinar today. And we would be very happy to hear from you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.